How much royalty can one republic take? I'm Scott Ott, and this is Bill Whittle Now. And Bill, this question came up as a result of a story that's in the news that's really not well founded as far as the details go, but I thought it raised an interesting question. The story in the news is accusations that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo may have used government staffers to perform personal chores for him, such as picking up dry cleaning, walking his dog, making reservations for a private dinner for his wife and himself. And I really don't want to get into that. I know that, that's people who don't like the president and attacking his staff and all that. But it occurs to me that this isn't the first time that such a question has come up, and it's not just limited to one party or the other. And I wondered, is it okay for government officials in a republic who are considered to be public servants to use tax-funded staffers for things that are outside of their job description that are really for personal benefit to the public servant?
Once again, an interesting little moral question. If it turns out that the people that Pompeo used to do this, that was not part of their job description, and they were doing strictly personal stuff for him, then that's an abuse. But I don't know of any executives of significant level that don't have personal assistants to do all of this. I know an awful lot of movie stars who are far less busy people than the Secretary of State of the United States of America, who have personal assistants to get their coffee and their dry cleaning and so on. So I guess my off-the-cuff answer to this would be, if the people who have been doing this, it was not part of their job description, then that's an abuse of the power. But there should be people available to do exactly that. I don't see how it benefits the Republic of the United States for the Secretary of State to go and pick up his own dry cleaning and have to miss an hour's worth of briefings or anything else on that score. And I don't know of any important people who do their own kind of things like that without the use of a personal assistant. So maybe personal assistant needs to be a staff position if it's not already.
Yeah, and we've often heard the term that presidents have a body man. My wife and I are binge watching The West Wing right now, and there's a character who's the president's body man, and he handles personal details like this, even going out and helping the president shop for gifts for the First Lady, for example. So if that were widely accepted within government, it occurs to me that it wouldn't require a whistleblower to unmask this and make a big deal about it. And the Democrats would be a little more circumspect, since they know that people who have served in Democratic administrations do this. So I'm assuming that this is not de rigueur, as the French would say, and that Hollywood celebrities, Brad Pitt probably has somebody who's called a personal assistant or something like that. And that's what they do. They were hired for that. Yeah, I imagine. I guess when I think about it, it's like, what would happen? Let's say that doesn't exist now, other than the president's body man. And we came to Congress, and the State Department said, look, some of the top officials in the State Department need manservants or ladies in waiting, and we'd like you to fund that. How do you think that would go over?
Poorly. Which is why I would say these individuals, high-ranking individuals, need personal assistants.
Should they be funded out of personal funds, or should that be taxpayer funded?
No, it should definitely be taxpayer funded. If we are hiring the person to be Secretary of State, again in this case, look, Secretary of State is not what it was in 1787. It's not like, well, I might as well pick up my laundry because the next dispatches from France are going to come in for 3.5 weeks. This is a world that is moving very, very quickly, and I personally think it's an abuse of the Secretary of State to expect him to do these kind of things. I don't want to be paying the Secretary, let me rephrase that. I don't want the Secretary of State taking his eye off of the ball for whatever hours he puts in a day, and I'm sure it's more than 8, being distracted by things like this that can be easily done by other people. Furthermore, it gives people a chance. It's not so much it gives them a job, but it does give people sort of an entry into the world of politics if they decide they want to work for the government or the State Department or whatever. But in any event, I don't see that as an abuse of any kind of thing. Now, you might be able to be in the margins of abuse when you get to like Hillary Clinton's personal assistants, some of whom seem to be in the vicinity of people falling out of windows or accidentally hanging themselves. But beyond issues of murder or letters of marque written to your personal assistant, I think it's a pretty good idea.
Would you say the same thing if Barack Obama was president and Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, and you found out that Hillary Clinton had told her government-paid assistant to go out and walk her dog?
Of course, I'd feel the same way about it. But there is the whole thing was predicated on the beginning of royalty, and the reason that I'm okay with this to this degree is because this doesn't seem extravagant. And I think that's the word we're looking for. When does it become extravagant? I don't know what Michelle Obama's staff was. I want to say it was 45. That number rings a bell in my head, but I can't say that for sure. When you have 45 people working for the First Lady, now you can start to make the case of that being extravagant. And likewise, if it turned out that Secretary Pompeo, rather than having a personal assistant to go get his laundry or pick up sandwiches for lunch or something, if he had a full-time butler who did nothing but stay at home and say, yes, may I help you, then that would be extravagant. But certainly the description of what we're talking about with Pompeo doesn't approach extravagance. I do think that the Obamas had an extravagant lifestyle on the public dime. Donald Trump has an extremely extravagant lifestyle, but it seems to me that most of that is paid for by Donald Trump, who, after all, took a pretty big pay cut to be president. So
actually, bigger than that, because he's not taking a paycheck. He's donating his money to the federal government, various departments of it, each time he gets paid.
So what I think this is a real simple issue. If it turns out that the hiring of assistants, however many are required, frees up the time of top-level people, then it's the exact same kind of thing you would do in a private corporation. It's not only, in my opinion, obviously, it's not only morally permissible, but it's practically morally required. I consider it to be a conspicuous waste of time, effort, and talent for a top person to be bogged down with these tiny little details. However, there does come a point when that kind of on-demand assistant becomes extravagant, and when you have the President of the United States sitting in Air Force One on the runway, essentially on the tarmac, holding up jet travel into LAX for 2 hours so that he can get a $200 haircut, now you're pushing extravagance. That was the case of Bill Clinton. I think sending Air Force One to Los Angeles to pick up a hairstylist and flying back to Washington is exceedingly extravagant, and I think that's criminally extravagant. But like with so many other things, rather than trying to define this down, I think most reasonable people can look at something like this and say, yeah, that seems reasonable, and no, that doesn't.
So it seems like the only measure that you might call for, based on your opinion expressed here, is that perhaps if it's not already written into the job description of the people who are walking dogs, picking up dry cleaning, or as President Trump suggested, washing your dishes, if that is not already in the job description, it should be part of it, not like some of the job descriptions I've had earlier in my career where number 13 was other duties as assigned. And I know if my boss at that time had said, go fetch my dry cleaning, I would have resented that.
Yeah, you would have done it though, probably, as would I.
Because I was a suck up.
Because we were working and we needed the money. Yes. Now, as it turns out, not being privy to the inside details of all of this, it may be that that this is not a full-time job, and that the most efficient way to do it is to have the Deputy Assistant Undersecretary of the Department of Undersecretaries be able to do this work as extra duties, and then you don't have to hire a full-time personal assistant. But in any event, I think clearly, if these kind of things are going to be part of the job duties, they need to be included in the job description so that there's total clarity about what this person is doing. And by the way, this is a relatively new thing. I don't get the impression that Harry Truman would have needed a personal assistant, but Harry Truman didn't live in the world that we live in today, and things are much faster moving, much more complicated. There's just a fire hose of information and tasks that have to be solved in very quick time. And that trend is continuing to accelerate. And to offload that is not only, I think, not a waste of money. I think it's a smart investment of taxpayer money. But I think that since times are changing, we ought to make that crystal clear so there's no not only so that there's no appearance of impropriety, if that job description lists what the personal assistant duties are, and the secretary or the president requires another personal assistant, you can hire them. But then at least you know who's on the payroll getting what. And a staff of 45 personal assistants for the Secretary of State would cause me to dig a little deeper. But 1, 2, 3 even, I don't think that's much of a problem.
Well, I've got a key grip standing by to give me a pedicure, so we're going to cut this one short.
And the key grip has a best boy standing by, ready. Yep. So
actually, he'll be holding the tools. The best boy will.
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're grateful to the members of BillWhittle.com who've provided the funding for this enterprise and enjoy backstage content as well as exclusive communication features on the website that you don't get unless you're a member. If you're watching this now and are on the fence about membership, go ahead and give it a try. If you think it's the most miserable thing you've ever done in your life, then we'll rapidly issue you a refund. You can just write to us and we'll be glad to do it. But we don't think that's going to happen. We think you're going to enjoy the fellowship of like-minded people. So go to that website, BillWhittle.com, and click the big green Become a Member button. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.